Today I'm going to show you how you can create a really simple sketch, for example like this one, where random ellipses are drawn on screen, and how you can push it to the Git repository and remote Git repository. So first of all, when we start, you have two things to ready. First of all, you need to have previously opened account with gitbucket.com. This is where our remote or internet repository is going to be placed. And second, you have previously installed Git tools from the gitscn.com website, because in order to work with Git, you need some Git tools. So basically, that's what you need to do before. Take a look at the previous tutorials if you want to know how to do this. So this is our objective. This is our sketch. How are we gonna do this? First, let's try to do it a little bit and think how we can do this. So our sketch, what it's gonna be doing, if we draw a few frames to understand how the activity of the sketch is going to be, and obviously the frames are going to be 6. And what are we gonna do? We're gonna take the random element, first draw one. And then on the second iteration, this one is already going to be there, so we're going to draw another one. And then on the next iteration, obviously this one and this one are already going to be there, and we just want to draw another one somewhere else, so we can draw this one over here. So already from 3 frames, it's pretty clear what it's going to be doing. So every time there is a frame, there will be a draw ellipse. Draw random ellipse. And here as well, draw random ellipse. And here as well. Now about for this one, draw random ellipse. Okay, it's pretty clear what it's going to be doing. So all it's going to be doing, every frame just draws random ellipse. And if we look at the processing, what function is called every frame? Every frame is called void draw. It's called every frame. So all we will have to do is we will have to call this draw random ellipse over here in draw every time. That's all our sketch is going to be doing. So let's open the processing environment and let's start. I'll start first with the description of the sketch, because it's important. If you do a lot of sketches like me, I do like 2 sketches every day, so eventually after a week you have 21 sketches, after 4 weeks, after a month you have like 84 sketches, and in 3 months you're going to end up having 160 sketches, and it's going to be really hard to remember what they were doing. So this is why it's good style to start with a simple description, and you just say this sketch is drawing random ellipses on the screen. That's it. So now we can start with the draw function, and as I said before, all we want to do here is draw random ellipse. So that's more or less like a small skeleton for our sketch. Keep in mind that I'm not trying to straight away write the code for how to do this. First, I'm just trying to make a skeleton in the way I think, in a human language, not in code, but in human language, and that's important. So, now more or less the skeleton for the sketch is ready. I can actually start putting code into it. So first I start put void setup, and I put size, which is important, and then we come over here. Actually, there are different options how I can draw random ellipse. One of the options is that I can straight away write the code for ellipse. For example, I have here this prepared statement, and I can just write this method, ellipse random 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 random. But actually, that's not what I'm gonna do, because if I give this sketch to you and you've never seen it before, and you look at this and you think, what the hell is that? You have to Okay, random width, so it's an X position, random width. Then random height and Y position is going to be random in height. Random, this is going to be the width, is going to be random between 10 and 20. And you think, okay, what is it doing? Okay, it just draws random ellipse. So, what I prefer to do instead of this, I just write like this, draw random ellipse, ellipse, and then I make a function, or a method, whatever you prefer to call it, which encapsulates the functionality, which encapsulates drawing of the ellipse. And again, I can paste this thing over here, and actually if we run it, it's gonna work. We're getting random ellipses. But I'm still not happy with the code. Because again, random ellipse, it's if I want to modify in future this code, it's not going to be very convenient for me. What I prefer to do is a bit different. So I'll leave this one on the bottom and I'll comment it so we have it as a point of reference. But I can write like this. Float x will be random width. Float y, random height. Float will gonna be ellipse width, random 10 to 20, and float ellipse height is random 20 to 30 to 40, let's say. And then over here I write x, y, ellipse, ellipse width, ellipse height. Basically, you see there is a bit of more code, but it actually pays out to you because it's so easy to see, to work with this one. For example, I run it, of course it runs the same code, but what happens now is if I want them to be circles, I can actually just copy this one here, and now the width is going to be equal to height. So these are going to be now random circles, not random ellipses. And this kind of helps, because if it would be, the code would be like this, and I would want from this code, I could make them circle very easily by copying. But from this code, if the code would be just this, for example, I command this part of code, in order to make them circles, I have to introduce new variable like size, and I have to copy it here, and I have to, and then I have to replace still those two variables with the variable size. So you see, if you wrote a code in the beginning, and it seemed to be really short, every time you're going to be wanting to modify it, you will have to put more effort. Whereas if you actually start from the very beginning with a clear and concise uh, code, then it's going to be way easier for you later on to modify. And actually, uh, so another, you can see it runs pretty well, and another thing which you can notice in this sketch is that because I chose to this name of a function, it's clear, like as if you're reading a book, what this drawer is doing. All it does, draw a random ellipse, and it's completely in line with what we know about our sketch, what we what we think in human terms with our sketch. Because this is draw random ellipse. That's what we're doing. That's draw random ellipse, draw random ellipse. That's what we were thinking in the very beginning, and that's what exactly what this method draw looks like. However, if you, for example, would have instead uh, used this one, and then you would just only have this line, then without comment, then this line is not very clear for humans what exactly it's doing. Okay, I understand that this is what Sketch is doing, and for me as somebody who is writing this sketch and who thinks about it every day and every second, I kind of remember that this thing is doing a random edit. But for a person who just starts reading your code, it's not that clear. He needs to spend 5, 10, 20, 30 seconds, depending on how good he is with processing and how complicated is the statement. But this, in my opinion, this is a really bad style of coding, because you code, you kind of understand what it is, but then eventually, when you look at this sketch 2 months later, or anybody else looks at the sketch, it's like, oh my god, this is crazy. Like, what the hell it is doing? And for somebody, they need to write commands and think, okay, what is doing? It's getting, getting king x position from random screen with, and they have to write all those commands to understand what exactly this place in code is doing. And eventually, when they write all those commands, they will think, oh, it's just draw random ellipse. So in our case, all we do, we just wrap our functionality in a very simple function like this, and we just put it like this, so that the code is easily readable. And same applies with the command on the very top of the sketch. As I said, not everybody understands from the very first moment of looking at your sketch, especially if it's big and complicated what it's doing, but this text helps everybody else and you yourself to remember what the sketch is about. So okay, now the sketch is ready. Now I'm not gonna save it yet. I'm gonna save it a bit later, but let's now open the Git repository online. So let's open Bitbucket. We open Bitbucket, and now we have to log in. To log in, assuming you have created account. My account is Git Sessing, Git processing, and I have it right there. Password, and I can log in. So when I'm logged in, I'm gonna be checking it every time. So, when you get into Bitbucket, you first see your dashboard. Yeah, it just shows, it's just like Facebook newsfeed, just shows your last activities. So I just made some commit to some other repository, doesn't matter. So what I want to do now, I want to create a repository for my sketch. This is the sketch, and I want it to be available from Bitbucket. So I press create, and I have to choose the name for repository. It's important that the name of the repository here should be the same as the name of your sketch over here. This is kind of an important factor because otherwise, if you don't match those names, then you're gonna have a bit of a trouble pulling it uh, from the repositories in running. So I have to think how I want to call my sketches. So I decided that because I'm going to be using my Bitbucket repository for different projects, and I want to the project from like for Java projects or for C# projects and for processing projects, I want to start all my sketches, all my repository names with the word pro. Then I'm going to put the name and ellipsis um, random ellipse is a good name for my first sketch. And remember, notice that I'm not using any capital letters because I just prefer to avoid capital letters because they can create a bit of confusion. So the best thing is actually just to use good old small letters and actually separate as well the meaning with the underline. And then I can put a bit of a description, and I can just copy this description from here. This is why it's kind of useful. This sketch is drawing random ellipses on the screen. Uh, very good. So next we are choosing access level. If you leave it like this, private repository, then only you will be able to see it. But I want everybody to see it, so this is why I'm checking. And we're using Git, and we don't need anything of that. And here you can select the language you are using. There is no processing, there is Java, but we do not want to do that because it's going to complicate things a little bit. And processing is not pure Java, so selecting this option won't help us at all. So we just leave it like this. If you want your repository to be private, if you don't want to show your sketch to anybody, you just leave this tick on, and you would just leave two of these checkboxes with ticks on, and then your sketch is going to be private for yourself. You can change it later on if you want to make it later on public. So I'm gonna make it still public, and let's go and press create repository. So now it says very well done, you have the repository, and then if you look over here, you can see that recently viewed and recently updated, you see in the list here a repository called Pro Random Ellipses. Very good. And then now the Bitbucket is offering us. What do you want to do with your repository? Do you want to start from scratch, or do you want to have an existing project to push up? Basically, we have to choose. I have an existing project to push up, because the only difference between these two options is that in this case you may already have your files ready, and you just push them up. Over here you have to first pull files, and then you have to push them back. But this one is way simpler, so you just say I have an existing project to push up, and nothing really much happens except that the Bitbucket is showing you this help screen of the commands you have to execute in order to create this repository. So we're gonna use those commands a bit later, and now I am going to save the sketch. So remember that we called our sketch Pro Random Ellipses, so this is how I'm gonna call it. Save, and I'm going to Pro Random Ellipses. Ellipses. Be sure that you type it correctly, because otherwise it's not going to be. And I save it. And now the sketch is saved. So what do I want to do now? Now I want to open my sketch folder. So I can go and go to the sketch menu and select show sketch folder. And here I am, I can see my sketch being here a bit lonely and sitting there. So what am I going to do now? Right now, we have a lot of things ready, and we have to run the Git tools. Remember that you have installed Git tools. If I press on the start menu and I type Git, then you can see that we have the Git bash and Git GUI. So I'm going to run the Git bash. These two tools, the one with the orange icon, are the ones that we're interested in. Git bash and Git GUI. But now we're going to only use Git bash. So I run Git bash and I get this window of, this is the command line interface for Git tools. As we're going to be using these tools pretty often, I suggest you right click here and press pin this program to taskbar. And if you do this pin to taskbar, then basically next time you can open this Git bash just by one click. Next thing you have to do, you have to make sure that the Git tools are in the right directory, because right now the Git tools are in this directory, which is a home directory denoted by tilde. If I type ls -l, I'll see the contents of this directory, and if you're familiar with Windows, then you can see that actually there's a My Documents music, and that's basically your users folder. So we don't want that, we don't need that text, so actually we can type the command called clear, which clears the terminal window. And what we are going to do now, we need to make sure that this Git tool knows where this directory is. So we're going to click on the path over here, and we're going to copy it. Or actually, no, we're going to do it even earlier. I'm going to show you how to do this. And then you select this terminal window, you press CD, and then when your mouse is over it, you just right click. Nothing happens. It was a bit different noise. In this one, you have to press Shift Insert to get your to this directory. And then you press, and it says error. And you think, why is it error? And it is error because over here you need to change into the directory. You need to you have a space in your file name, so you have to do cd open quotes, double quotes, press shift insert, close double quotes, and then you can press enter. And now everything is perfect. Our Git is inside of our sketch directory, and you can see that because Git updates the status and says documents processing dates of like August and for random ellipses. And if you type ls minus l, you can see that actually you can see that there is a file for random ellipsis pd in the current directory. This command ls minus l is listing your current directory contents. So what we are going to do now, we are going to init the Git repository. That's the first step you do when you are wanting to uh, start with Git repository. So you type git init, and it says initialize empty Git repository in this folder, and we are pretty happy about that. So that's all good. And now the prompt has changed into the directory plus master in brackets. Master is the branch which you are working on, because when you're working with Git, you're gonna have a lot of different branches. We're gonna cover the branches later on. Just for now, we just need to know that that's the name of your branch, master. You don't need to do anything with it, just so that you know what pops up on the screen and why. So the first thing we have to do now is to uh, actually commit our changes, and because our repository is empty. So what we do first, we have to press this thing. We can type git status to see what's the story with our repository. And when you type the git status, git replies. And we are on branch master. Yeah, we knew that already because of this text. Then it says basically it's going to be an initial commit, and you have untracked files. Untracked files are just new files you just created, they're not in the repository yet. So to add those untracked files, we have first to stage them. And this is happening via git add, and then you can start typing the file, pro, random, ellipsis pd, and then you hit enter, and the file is going to be staged. But if you have many files, you might want to stage all of them. So then you just type git add dot, which is gonna stage all the files in the current directory. And that's pretty okay. Now it says it has added files, but it has shown us the warning that the align keys is going to be replaced by CRLF, just like convention. It only changes how your line ending is in file. It doesn't matter, it doesn't affect you at all, so we just don't pay attention to this. Now if I type git status, what you're going to see is that we have changes to be committed. This file is in green and it says new file. This is in our staging area. So what we can do now, we just have to commit. And I just type git commit minus n to make a message, and in quotes I can put a message, for example, initial commit. And very good. Again, we have made an initial commit. It tells us it's all done, and then it gives us the warning, which we don't pay attention to, and it shows us the summary. One file change, 25 insertion. 25 insertion means 25 lines were inserted in the file, and this doesn't really matter at the moment. So we can type now git status again, and you see nothing to commit, working directory to. This is your working directory. This is the place where you're editing and changing things. And when you're ready, you're committing it into a Git repository. So what this message tells us now is that there is nothing to commit, that this file is exactly the same as the one we saved into the repository, and that's true because we just pushed it to the repository. We've just committed to the repository, so it is not, there is no any changes. If I introduce some change, for example, I add a command here, rows, and I save file, and now I type again git status, then it shows that there is a modified file and change is not staged. There's new changes, and we need to do something with it. But we do not want any of those changes. So basically, I'm not going to do anything about that. I'm just going to do what I'm going to do now is to push this repository to this sketch to the remote repository. And to do this, we need to follow two steps. First step is that we need to add a remote repository to Git. So I'm going to copy this command, and then what happened over here is that your sketch is now saved inside this sketch. Is saved inside of the local repository. And local repository is not the remote repository, just on your computer. So now we want to let Git know that there is a remote repository somewhere on the internet. So we do this with this command, git remote, and then we tell what we want to do. First what you can say, you can check if your current sketch has any remote repositories. If you type just git remote, uh, over here you can notice it's empty, so I'm going to clear screen and git remote. Now you see that nothing was output. And now I'm gonna, as you remember, I've just made copy, and now I'm in this window, and I'm gonna press Shift Insert, and this is gonna paste my keyboard because Control V doesn't work in those windows, so we have to use this Shift Insert. And this is a command says git remote add origin https la 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 la. This is the address of your repository, and then you can press enter, and no errors, so it means command is okay. And then I type again git remote, and you can see that there is one remote now. Before that there was no remote, and now there is one remote called origin. Remote is a short for remote repository. Usually people use the word remote either for remote control when you have a tele at home, or remote meaning something is far away or distant. In this case we use remote as a noun, and it actually means a remote repository. So we can see that there is one remote repository with the alias origin, and we can see a bit more of the details about it if we type git remote v and -v. We can see that where actually these repositories are pointing, and we can see that for fetching it's pointing to this, and for pushing it's pointing to this address. For us they're the same. That's pretty okay. Um, if you're working with processing, they rarely will be in the first year of using Git, or first year, 2 years. Unlikely they're going to be different addresses, they're all going to be the same. But just for you, it's good to know that there's this command which allows you to see where actually your aliases for remotes are pointed. So now what we have to do, we can take the second command and we can use it, git push origin all. So basically what this command does, it pushes all your local repository to the remote repository, or as we just say remote, called origin. I know it's a bit too much to get straight away into your head, but hopefully this is going to at least show you the whole process of how it works. So I'm pasting this command using Shift Insert, and you may ask me what is this -u. -u just tells us to remember that we want to use this repository with the future commands. And minus all means we're going to push everything what's available in our local repository. So you press enter, and then it asks you for a password. So you can put your password for your account. So you press enter, and you can see that you are creating things and loading objects and everything, and new branches created. So basically it means everything is okay. And then if you try now to take a look at this, at the remote repository, you can take a look at the source, and you can see that inside of the source you already have the your sketch. You can click on it, and you can see that's your little favorite sketch with the command on top and everything detailed. And then you can click on overview, and it just tells you again what has happened within your repository, and you can see that the repository was created 14 minutes ago, and that initial commit was pushed 33 seconds ago, which I just did. and that's the code for the commit. You can click on it as well, and you can see the commit, the details. Actually, the new file was added, 25 insertions. Remember, 25 lines inserted, 0 lines deleted. Everything is okay. So now remember that actually I have added this browse ellipsis change to the file, and I'm going to clear the terminal window. And I'm going to show you one more thing. You see the terminal window is a little bit, this word doesn't fit, it's a bit inconvenient. So you can right click over here, go into properties, go into there are different tabs. There's a tab called layout, and you want to go into the window size and increase width from 80 to 120. And you press OK, and now the window is wider. If you want to increase height, it's easy. You can increase it just with your mouse, but you can, okay, looks like, yeah, in Windows, looks like in Windows 8 you can, yeah, you can decrease the width, but you can increase the width with the mouse. So this is the shortcut. So now you can type again like something. And you can see that this is now full line. It's going to be easier for us to read things. So again, I press clear, and again I want to take a look what the status of our Git. And what you can see that we have one modified file called pro-random ellipsis. What means modified? Modified means that this file inside of our working directory, this is our working directory, is different from what we have in our repository. And it kind of makes sense because what we did into the repository, we just put the file, uh, without this line, we committed it, and now we added this line and there is a change. If you want to take a look what exactly is the change of this file, you can use the command called git diff, and then you can type the file name. Maybe there is a shortcut as well here. If you just type pro and you press tab, then it will suggest you the name of the file. And we can press git diff, and this is the output from the git diff. Again, there is one more shortcut you can use. You go to properties, to options, and there is quick edit mode. And quick edit mode allows you to select with mouse these areas. Usually when you click mouse, nothing really happens, but in this case it's helpful for us to select. So look, I type this command git diff pro random ellipsis pde, and now it's going to show us the changes between the committed version. This is all just git rubbish and everything, but basically you can see that there are two versions, A and the version B. And the A is the old version and the B is the new version. The A is the version from the repository. And you can see that what's happening over here. You can see that there was one line deleted and there was one line added. The empty line was deleted and one line added in blue. So that kind of can be useful for us to know. If I, for example, take and I add another line, if I want to draw two ellipses, I can type draw random ellipse again, and then I have to save the file. And I go over here, and I press type clear, so to have a clear screen. And then I go and I type again, git status. We have the same message. Take a look. On branch master, yeah, we always work on branch master. Change is not staged for commit. In human language means that when we have made some changes and this file is different from what we have in the repository. This file is different, so in order to commit it, we need to stage it and then we have to commit it. So this is what Git tells us. And if you want to take a look what's the actual difference, you type git diff pro, and then you can press tab and it will suggest you the name of the file. And then you type enter, and let's take a look again at what happened. So I just type this command, then there's a lot of this kind of rubbish, blah blah blah, which is not really interesting for you. What you're usually interested in something that goes up to those lines. You can see it has void setup. It shows you a bit of the context, and it shows you a bit of a void draw. And you can see that I have added extra line called draw random ellipse. This is the old line. So it tells you every time you add something, it tracks what it was added. And then if you, for example, want to set up the color, I decided that I want to set up the color. So I type fill, and let's see, the fill is going to be red. And I put the fill red, and I save the file. And again, I type, okay, I'm going to clear the screen here, and I type git status. Again, all we see is that there is one modified file. And this message is always the same because it just says there's one modified file in your sketch folder or in the working directory. And then what I want to do is to see actually what are the actual changes. So again, I can just clear the screen and I type git diff, and the file name is pro, and I type, so I start typing pro, and then I here, even here is fine, and I type, and I press tab button, and it suggests me the name, and now I can see the changes between the current version of the file and the version we have in the repository. So again, if you skip all this rubbish in the very top, you can just look at the colors, and the colors are going to tell you the main meat of the change. So you can see that there are 2 lines added, and there is a draw random ellipse, and there is a color added, and I can see there is this strange F. Probably I made a typo and typed something in over here. Yes, that's true. I have added this F that doesn't belong there. So I save the file, again, resave it, and then again I can clear the screen, and I can type git status. I don't have to type it every time, but it's good to figure out if everything is okay. So yeah, one file is modified. Just look at the colors. It's usually the easiest thing. And then again, I'll clear the screen and I'll just type git diff pro, then I press tab button, and then I press enter, and I can skip all this rubbish on the very top, and I just can get into a look at the colors. One line added, command added, and then the color added. So I can actually figure out what kind of change it was. So now I can stage the file, and to do this I press git add, and then I type the file name pro, and then press tab, random ellipsis. The file was added. It just again, that's what what we did. I added it, and then the warning as always comes up for me, but it doesn't really matter. And then I can git commit -m with a message. And what is the message of my commit? Now I'm going to be committing the changes to the repository. Which the message is going to be that this commit adds extra second ellipse to be drawn in draw, and makes all ellipses red. I'm going to close quotes and I press enter. And again, if you skip the warnings, which is this line, it just tells us that that's the final message. One file change, 2 insertions, 1 deletion. One file change, that's true. In comparison with what we used to have in the repository before, we just changed one file. We did 3 insertions, 3 lines were inserted. This fill line, and then we can scroll, and then there were one line added, draws ellipse command, and another line added, and then it says 1 deletion, and you think, what the hell was the deletion? And deletion was this empty line. So we didn't even notice that, but even if you change empty lines, Git still notices those changes. So you can see that here the empty line was deleted and the inside line was added. So that's what the summary of the commit is. Now if you're going to take a look at I'm going to clear this, and then if you want to take a look at what was the history of commit, you can type git log, and then you can see that actually I have 2 commits, this one and this one. This is the special hash code for the commits. It's not important the detail, but it's kind of every commit is unique, so you can always find them by this code. And then it says author, author, and then it says date, and it says the commit message. And it says the first commit we had was called initial commit, and the second one was like that this commit adds second ellipse to be drawn in draw and makes all ellipses red. So that's pretty cool. Now if we type git status, we can see that it says to us um, nothing to commit working directory clean. Working directory clean means that clean of the changes. The file which is in the working directory matches 100% to the file which is now in the repository. So this is why it says working directory clean. So what are we going to do now? Now we want to take a look over here. If we look at our repository and we reload it, and we look at the source, we can see that this source still has only one draw random ellipse, and it has no color here. Why is it so? It's very logical, because what we did, we changed the local repository, we changed the sketch, and we changed the local repository, but the remote repository we didn't update. What we have to do now, we have to push to the remote repository. So to do this, I type git push origin master, and I press enter. And again I have to type password, and it says authentication failed because I have mistyped the password. I'll try it again. Try again. So now we can see that the message that password is okay, file objects, whatever it is, uploading complete, everything is okay. If you ask me what did those origin master meant, when you're pushing something, you always have to specify the alias for the remote, because you can have your sketch being located in several remotes. You can have not only one, like here on the Git on the Bitbucket. You can have it on Bitbucket and at the same time on GitHub, and at the same time at your friend's computer in his home or in his garage. So you sometimes can be pushing to um, several remotes. And then this one is the branch, to which branch you want to push, because sometimes you want to push one branch, you don't want to push another branch. But for us, it doesn't matter now. What we just want to know is that this is just a parameter we just have to type in, and that's it. And we shouldn't bother about details about this one. And now, after this push has happened, we can take a look at the overview of our repository, and it will tell us, wow, there's a new entry, pushed one commit, and this is the commit uh, message. At second ellipse to be drawn in row and makes all ellipses red. And if we look in the commits, we can see those two commits and the messages, and it's 4 minutes ago, 19 minutes ago. Oh my god, this sketch is taking a while to record this tutorial. So, and then if we look into the source, and we can see that the source was updated 4 minutes ago, and we have a latest commit message. And if we look over here, we can actually see that we have the comment, and we have the second line, and we have the color here as well. And again, if you want to go to the commits, and if you want to see what were the changes, you click over here on this commit message, on the commit key or hash, and then you can see the list of changes already in a better, more visual way. So you can see that one line was deleted, two lines were added, and one more line was added. That's how it works. And basically, that probably is what we wanted to discuss. But the general idea is that every time you do some changes, you have to commit them. Now if I type here something again, like hello, and then if I save the file, now I save it in the working directory. So working directory is not clean anymore. Not clean meaning that it's working directory. This is now differs from the contents of the repository, of the local repository. So if I type git status, again it will tell us there is a modified file. And if I type git diff, then it will show us that I've actually added a line over here. And I've deleted the empty line and I've added a line. and that's what has happened. And